you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so that you can sleep sound and dream deep. This evening's dreams look at moving houses, and family. And it seems to be a theme or themes that are coming up in other people's dreams, not just this conversation I've been having lately with friends and colleagues. Home and family have become very important subjects. Not that they always weren't, but they're taking on new meaning, and it's showing up in people's dreams as well. So there's three short dreams this evening that I'm looking at. And let's see, we'll start with the first one, where the dreamer went on a night out with some friends, some guy friends, doing some male bonding, and along with some other guys that he knew from his judo class. But just as they were leaving, he had realized that he wanted to go back to his home and to change his jumper, his sweater, and met his sister-in-law in the house when he got there. That's the first dream. The second dream, the dreamer states that he was feeling excited because his family had found a new house, which was actually an old house, an old stone railway station house. And apparently must have had two wings, because in one half, the dreamer and his family occupied one wing, I guess, and in the other half, or the other wing, the sister-in-law lived. Then that was it. Short dreams. The third dream had the dreamer stated that he was on his way to visit a client. He had an appointment. But when he got there, somebody let him in. Wasn't sure who it was. It was a family member or a housekeeper, but someone let him in, and the person that he was going to see, the client, wasn't there. Now, during this time that he was in this place, this bedsit, it was immaculate. It was all white and with very modern decor. And while he was waiting, he was given a white T-shirt to put on. This family arrived in the room and sat on the bed next to the dreamer, waiting for what? Not sure, but was waiting. Then, subsequent to that, and the adult son of this same room apparently looks like a character from a soap opera called EastEnders. So if you watch EastEnders, he looks like Phil or Grant Mitchell. Phil, I remember. Grant, I'm not sure. But anyway, he looks like a character from EastEnders. So the dreamer was initially the dreamer stated that this brother or son that had come into the room was initially suspicious of him for some reason, but then he kind of thawed and gave him a magazine about the occult, which looked like the son may have made up himself. There are some interesting links there, but centered around three themes. One, houses. Two, women. And men. So I'll come back to those three themes in a moment, but let's look at each dream in turn and see what comes out of them. Now, the dreamer stated he was on a night out with friends, including some people from his judo class. Now, he specified the judo members of his judo class are kind of just lumped together as in kind of this amorphous group. Now, I I just wonder about that. I mean, are they not really friends? They're just people you happen to go to class with. Why were the certain friends named while these guys kind of remained this kind of lump of humanity, so to speak? Um, they're also, well, forgetting to return home to change his jumper, his sweater. Now, why? Was it dirty? Was it inappropriate in some way? Why was there a need to change this sweater? I mean, if you think about what sweaters are, they keep us warm, they've been protected from the elements, and changing it, maybe that it wasn't protective enough or it was too warm. What was going on with the sweater? And what color was it? Color or lack of it can have an importance in understanding our dreams. So I'd be curious to know about the color of this sweater, um, and what did you change the sweater for? What were you wearing, and what did you change to? And the dreamer seemed to express surprise at finding the sister-in-law in the house when he went to change his jumper. And I wonder why. If she lives there, as it is indicated in the next dream, why would you be surprised to actually find her there? So, who is she? What does she represent, if not herself? In the second dream, there's another house, but it's a new house, but it's not a new house. It's an old stone house, which used to be a railway station. And there seems to be something about, even though it's new, it's not. It's new to the dreamer, as it is a new home, but it's an old structure. So, and there's something about that maybe, there's the inside, the inhabitants are new, but the structure itself is old. And there's something about that, particularly at the current moment, about we need to change our structures, not just within ourselves, but in the wider society as well. The other thing about this house is that it's a former railway station, a place of transit, yet it's become a place that is stationary and a place that a person can call home. And there seems to be a bit of contradiction there or counterbalance by the railway station, but yet it's home. So it's no longer a place of transit, it's a place where people stop and the expression about a divided house came to me when looking at this second dream, and in that, the saying, a house divided against itself can't stand. And there's something there with that, because you have, on the one hand, the dreamer and his family in one wing of this house, and the sister law often by herself in another place, space. Just curious. There's also the implication of, if you look at it rather than a building, looking at it as family dynamics or relationships, you have the outer relationship, the what people see, the family, the children, things like that, and then you have a quieter, more hidden side, which could be represented by the sister-in-law on her own. So there's the public persona versus the more private persona, often off by itself somewhere. And again, I come back to the sister-in-law. There's no surprise expressed that she's there, but what does she represent? And in fact, what does the family itself represent? What does the wife represent? What do the children represent? Because people aren't always themselves in a dream. What qualities do they, or notions or feelings do they evoke? And it would be interesting to look at all of the characters there and to determine what they represent uh, in the dream. Excuse me. Now, in the third dream, the dreamer is on his way to see a client. He had an appointment. Now, is this something that happens in or not? Being that everybody's on lockdown, but is this something that may have occurred during the time when people were actually able to go out and see people? Um, there's something about that struck me about personal contact. I mean, you don't even get visits from your doctor barely anymore. So it's quite interesting that this dreamer was actually on his way to have a personal visit to see a client. Um, who was the client? What does that particular client evoke for the dreamer? Now, the dreamer was let into this modern, very white in color, a very new, very modern apartment or bedsit, um, and was let in by a family member or a housekeeper. The dreamer wasn't sure which. Now, what did this? Who was this person exactly? What did they look like? Did they speak? Did they just open the door and point? I mean, was there any kind of interaction with them, and what was it? And how did you feel about getting to your appointment and finding that the person you went to see isn't home? What was that? What was that like? What was your reaction to that? Now, while you're waiting for this person who isn't there, the dreamer is given a white T-shirt to wear in this white room, and there's a number of things that can be extrapolated from that, but certainly sterility. I mean, you think of a surgical space, which is scrubbed clean and is white, gleaming white. So there's purity is also indicated, being something that's white, bleached clean. There, the expression change of habit, as in, not just the habits that we have, but if we're talking about a nun or something, literally a change of habit. And maybe that this is more indicative at a wider level of a sea change, a spiritual change that's going on, or needs to be going on at this moment in time. Now, this white room, again, surgically sterile, stripped bare. There was only a bed in there, which is interesting that the only piece of furniture that was actually referred to is a bed. This daughter that appeared of the family of the person that the dreamer was going to see now suddenly appears. Who? How does she look? What does she say? What does she do? Why did she give you this new shirt? Who is she? Or more importantly, what does she represent? The young woman sits next to the dreamer. Was there a conversation of any kind? Was there any other place for her to sit, or the only place for her to sit was next to you on the bed? And how does her presence make you feel? Did you feel comfortable, uncomfortable? Just what were the dynamics there with this young woman? Now, So presumably the young woman's brother or adult son of this family enters the room, looking like a soap opera character who's a bit of a tough guy. Gets into dodgy deals and whatnot. So yeah, a bit of a hard man. He'll mix it up with anybody if they come his way. Now, the this adult son who had come into the room where the dreamer and the young woman were was suspicious of the dreamer initially. Why? Was it something he had said, something he was doing? Was it just the fact that he was there with the sister? What was Did he pose some kind of threat? What was the reason for the man's suspicion of the dreamer? The other thing was that this son, the gentleman who came into the room, gives the dreamer what looks like a self-made magazine on the occult. Exactly, I mean, the occult covers many things. What kinds of occult things was this magazine referring to? There's something that's implied by hidden matters or secret matters, and what is being hidden or secret, and how is it that this man, the son, gives this occult magazine to the dreamer? I mean, did the dreamer express some kind of interest in these things? Is that something that the dreamer is actually interested in waking life? So there's, as go back to my original statement at the beginning of this, that there were a couple of three themes that seem to have run through all three of these dreams. The first theme being houses, whether they were old houses, whether they were new houses, whether they were divided houses. There were houses can represent in a person's dream their themselves and their inner lives. I mean, the body is the house, and the soul is what lives in it. So it would be interesting to find out what is going on in the house of the dreamer, that inner house. The other theme is that of women. Now, in only people that were actually identified were some close friends in the first dream, and we'll come back to them in the dreamer's wife and sister-in-law. They're seen as individuals, and as such that have a more personal relationship with them, perhaps. But again, who are they? I mean, of course, ostensibly the wife is the wife and the sister-in-law is the sister-in-law. But what do they represent? What do they symbolize? What does wife evoke for the dreamer? What does sister-in-law evoke for the dreamer? Now, the men, interestingly enough, which is the third theme, there were a few men that were identified as individuals, but there was also a group of men that were like the collective. And I wonder if the members of this judo class represent the collective in terms of the wider society, the people out there, so to speak. So there's something that speaks to the collective. I mean, even the reference to the son in the third dream that entered the room that looks like a soap opera character, which EastEnders, for those who don't know, is a very popular long-running soap opera here in the UK. So again, there's something about that kind of collective um, energy or attitude or behavior. And I wonder if there's some kind of conflict, or seeing that there are some people, males in particular, that that they actually have a personal relationship, and then there are others that are lumped in a group, or likened to a certain type of group or person. And there's something that may be going on there with regard to relationships in the wider world and the outside world, that there are few people that are seen as individuals, and maybe the others kind of get put in an outer, some kind of outer ring, if you will. If you think of Saturn, the person's in the middle, and then there's these rings with that varying distances. And so maybe that some of this collective energy is further away, and therefore more distant relationship to the dreamer. So there you have it. Those are my take on some, like I said, look at houses and relationships. And I hope that stimulates you to look at your own dreams and see what they're trying to tell you. There was one thing that I wanted to share, and that is when there seems to be a theme or themes that run through dreams, particularly when they're dreamt close together, or you keep having the same dream, a recurrent dream, or variations of it. It's because it's think of the unconscious as sending up little messages and little kites to let you know to look at something. And when you don't get it, it keeps sending the message or variations of the message. You know when you get the message because the meaning of the dream will click in your head like a puzzle piece dropping into place, and you'll go, oh yeah, you'll know. The other thing is that the dream will either stop completely, or if you've only partially gotten the message, the dream will change in some way, in some kind of detail. So I thought I would share that in case there may be someone out there that seems to be living Groundhog Day with regard to their dreams. That's the reason why you're not getting the message, and it keeps sending it until you do. So I'd like to finish with asking you for your dreams. I'm putting together a new book on dreams and dream interpretation. I'd love to be able to include you in a complimentary session online with me to get help with your dream. You'll also, as my thank you, get made to order flower essence blend for yourself. Please, if you're interested, leave a message here or send me a personal message, or get in contact with me as best you can through Facebook or through YouTube. Thanks again for watching and listening. Have a fantastic evening. Stay home, stay safe, and if you're really stressed out, find out about my Karuna Reiki sessions offered live on Facebook and starting next week, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Take care.